Do you remember when C.B. Cebulski took over as the EIC of Marvel Comics? It was kind of overshadowed, I guess, with the Akira Yoshida stuff where all these allegations came out, even though Marvel Comics literally had hired the guy and published the comic books, and they certainly knew that C.B. Cebulski and Akira Yoshida were the same person. But he also made a lot of promises. He said, we're not going to do as many events. We're going to stop doing the reboots and all that kind of stuff. And at this point, he hasn't lived up to a single promise. In fact, we are getting a cancellation on Black Panther, John Ridley, which is probably well-deserved. There's no sales, and that comic book absolutely sucks. And we're getting a reboot like a couple of months later. It's the most Marvel Comics thing I could ever really think of. Ruin the character, destroy the sales, cancel it just so you can reboot it. Thankfully, John Ridley is not going to be writing the comic book anymore this time. At least they've replaced him as a writer because he's doing some exceptionally bad things with Black Panther. I've done a couple of videos on it. You have to read it to believe it. It's that bad. But there's a lot of stuff, especially from DC like that right now. But we're getting a reboot on Black Panther. Is Black Panther the new Captain Marvel? Have they destroyed T'Challa and the legacy of Black Panther, the lore of Black Panther within Marvel Comics that so many people worked so hard to make important? Greats like Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Christopher Priest, and others, obviously Brian Stelfreeze, great artist on that series. It feels like they've done everything that they can to make Black Panther like not cool, not something that you go to your comic book shop to read. And now we're getting another reboot. Black Panther's current solo title, headed up by writer John Ridley, will come to an end with March 8th's Black Panther number 15. But Marvel's wasting no time at all keeping T'Challa and the world of Wakanda on shelves with a brand new Black Panther number 1 now scheduled to debut just a few months later in June. Most of you know I'm more of a DC Comics guy, and they have some of these problems too, but nobody has this problem quite like Marvel Comics. And you just get this cycle, and the cycle just gets shorter and shorter and shorter. We're seeing it right now with like Tini Howard with Captain Britain. But Black Panther is not Captain Britain. Black Panther isn't even Captain Marvel. Black Panther is an important character. This comic book series should not be rebooted so often. It's getting embarrassing at this point. When are C.B. Cebulski, Tom Brevoort, and the other people responsible for Avengers titles gonna wake up and smell the coffee and realize our direction, our take on Black Panther is not resonating, not just with Marvel fans, but with Black Panther fans? Those are the ones that are starting to reject the series over and over. And as you keep doing these reboots, it becomes very dangerous. It becomes really harmful to the character itself. And actually, if you do find a good writer, and the writer that they put on this, which I'll talk about here in a minute, has some potential to be good for Marvel Comics, but people are going to associate this new writer with all this failure associated with Black Panther. They're no longer associating Black Panther with Chadwick Boseman and the movie that was really popular, or even the sequel that did okay. People aren't thinking about that when they think about Marvel Comics Black Panther. I think a lot of times they're thinking about Black Panther and the crew and stuff like that. They oversaturated the character, but they never actually put on any good writers. They basically just went out of their way and got Ta-Nehisi Coates, who's not a comic book writer. He's an essayist, for the Atlantic or whatever. And then they went out and found his friends to write stuff associated with it. And now we're like 4 or 5 years down the line, and the character's been rebooted twice under Ta-Nehisi Coates, once under John Ridley, and now once under Eve Ewing. What has happened with Marvel Comics that they can't learn from their mistakes anymore? You literally just rebooted the series like last year. Like, how does this stuff happen? This is what the new writer on Black Panther, Eve Ewing, you're probably not going to know who that is unless you're like a really hardcore Marvel fan. She probably did the most bearable work on Ironheart, Riri Williams, who's also a failed character. So they're just really saddling Eve Ewing, who has some potential, with really bad characters that are failing right now. I think she also is doing the Monica Rambeau Photon series or whatever, another series that isn't ever going to actually sell, even though Monica Rambeau is a good character and people liked her as Captain Marvel, and they certainly liked her as the leader of the Avengers. But we haven't really seen Monica Rambeau for quite some time, and that character's also got the stink of Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, on her at this point. And I don't know, it feels like they're just trying to sink Eve Ewing before she even gets a chance to become a big name. She says, more than anything, I'm bowled over at the opportunity to write such a marquee character. I see it as a big responsibility. This is talking to comicbook.com. Black Panther is a tremendously important character for Marvel fans, But moreover, the character has become one of the most important icons in pop culture of people from the African diaspora all over the world. And on a personal note, the title was so indelibly shaped by my friend and mentor, Ta-Nehisi Coates, who is a big part of why I'm even in comics. There are a lot of talented creators working right now, and I feel very awed that the editorial team asked me to take on this. It makes me feel really seen as a comics writer, very humbled and very grateful. It's a big role for me, and I take it extremely seriously. I'm glad that Eve Ewing is taking this seriously and understands the importance of Black Panther, because it doesn't feel like a vast majority of the people responsible for decisions at Marvel Comics understand that about the character. So that is refreshing. But I wouldn't go out there like advertising that Ta-Nehisi Coates is your mentor and is one of the reasons that you're in comic books. He has one of the worst Black Panther runs of all times. The second one. The first one isn't very good either, other than the Brian Stelfreeze art, which really does shape Wakanda in the movies. But thankfully, Marvel Studios under Kevin Feige and Ryan Coogler were smart enough to cut out a lot of the really dumb stories that Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote, because he's not a comic writer. In fact, he doesn't know how to write stories. That's one of the refreshing things about Eve Ewing. If you go and read her Ironheart series, which isn't very long, you will see in about 3 issues that she's got more comic book writing talent in her pinky than Ta-Nehisi Coates has in his entire body, even after writing comic books for 5 years. So at least there is a chance that this is going to be good. But she's also sitting behind the 8 ball because she's following up some really, really bad runs on Black Panther. I don't think there's been a good Black Panther run, a truly good Black Panther run in like over a decade at this point. We had the Reggie Hudlin run that was really bad. The Ta-Nehisi Coates run. Obviously, John Ridley started out good, but somehow he just destroyed it. Man, that thing just went down in a hurry. And now Eve Ewing is going to have to try and, pick up the pieces with their reputation on the line, because she's never worked with a character this important or this high profile. The good news for Eve Ewing is that it can't get any worse at this point, I don't think. I don't think that you can write anything worse than what Ta-Nehisi Coates and John Ridley did back to back. So at least the bar is low, but enthusiasm for the character is probably also, at least in the comic books, at an all-time low. And honestly, I don't think the sequel to the movie, Wakanda Forever, really did much for Black Panther enthusiasm just in general. So we'll see what happens there. Marvel previously announced the John Ridley written Black Panther, which began in 2021, would be coming to an end in March of 2023. The current storyline has seen Black Panther form his own team of superheroes who go head-to-head with the Avengers following a disagreement surrounding T'Challa's best friend from childhood, Jai. Black Panther 13, an issue that led some fan criticism over Captain America's portrayal and a nerf T'Challa, ended with Namor arriving and siding against Earth's mightiest heroes. The final issue in the series, Black Panther 15, releases March 8th, 2023, from Ridley and artist Herman Peralta. And what a waste of Herman Peralta this entire thing has been. He's a really good artist. I don't think he started out on it, but he's doing really good stuff. He did awesome stuff on Maestro with Peter David as well. I've never seen anyone quite not get a character like John Ridley with Black Panther. Well, maybe John Ridley with Superman, but certainly with Black Panther, we're going to talk Marvel Comics here. He does not get the character, and issue 13 is a problem in the fact that it's going to be so close to what Eve Ewing is going to have to do. She's going to have to fix that stuff. He just made up some weird wedge between Steve Rogers and T'Challa that doesn't even seem like it needs to exist. He just did it to portray Steve Rogers in a bad light and to tell T'Challa to go back to Africa before he beats him up. It was really weird stuff. They've got to stop putting John Ridley on comic books. Certainly anybody important. If you want John Ridley to do something, it needs to be Elseworlds. It needs to be a character no one's ever heard of. Probably should be doing creator-owned stuff and working at Image and stuff. Every opportunity that John Ridley has had, starting with Wildstorm, then going to DC Comics, and now at Marvel, he has failed, undeniably failed. There's nothing he's written that's been even, decent. The start of this run was okay. It was kind of shocking. It's oh, John Ridley can write Black Panther. After 3 issues, it fell off a cliff. You're like, what the hell just happened here? Marvel Comics needs to start taking these characters and these universes seriously, because it's getting embarrassing at this point. It's not just Moon Girl that sucks with sales. It's not just Captain Marvel being rebooted every 9 months now. It's major characters. It's leaders of the Avengers like Black Panther. It's leaders of the Avengers like Steve Rogers and Captain America, which is constantly being rebooted now too. They have destroyed so many characters. We're on our 3rd or 4th Iron Man reboot in the last 5 years. This stuff is happening way too much. They need to dial it in and understand what people want from their characters. They need to understand what Marvel fans want from Black Panther, what Black Panther fans want from Marvel, and maybe they could turn this thing around, but Eve Ewing is not going to do that. She has potential, but she has not yet arrived. She hasn't actually written anything that a majority of people that read it are going to be like, you need to read this. She wrote something that when people read it, they go, okay, that's the better version of Ironheart. Still a ways to go because she's new, so we'll see what happens. But John really just lost his mind in the middle of his day of Black Panther, and I have no idea what happened here. Doc and I talked about it. This dude went off the reservation quick. It's time. He's gone from Marvel and DC Comics. If you can't see the video here, there's also a link in the video description.